Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HR Huddle. It's August 15th, Monday, and I'm Renee Moelders. I'm a partner with Convergence Coaching, and I'm here with the senior consultant, Samantha Mansfield.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, and you know Samantha. She was on the HR Huddle last week with Jennifer Wilson. She's been on here before. And Jennifer Wilson is away at an engagement today and tomorrow. And then Tamara Lorzell's finishing up a vacation, lucky duck. So Samantha and I jumped in here to check in with our HR Huddle audience and talk to you about the latest. And actually, today we want to talk about remote learning. And Samantha and I have been kicking ideas around about this. We teach about it. We actually have a webinar that's coming up, one of our public webinars on remote objections. And there's a whole section on learning. And what we're hearing from people oftentimes in our leadership programs or when we're teaching sessions is, I don't know how to teach these people. I don't know how to know what they're getting. It just feels like I don't know how to connect with them from a learning perspective. And so we thought, Samantha, that we would dig into some strategies here today to see if we can give people some new things to try or some directions to go in to improve their remote learning, blended learning, not just remote learning, remote and blended learning. So that's what we wanted to talk about. And Samantha, where do you want to start?
I think it starts with what you were saying there with the blended. So I'm certainly hearing a lot of leaders that are saying, "Hey, our team wants to do some learning in person," right? We've we've kind of been videoed out of our learning. And so having a balance or creating a blended environment so that people have a choice is very important. Because some people are really ready to go back to in-person learning. But we also have to keep in mind that we have absolutely found the benefits of being able to learn remotely, and for some people that works really well, for not for everybody. So when we create an option of an blended option, that works where we're covering more of our people. And I think the other way to think about blended learning is the fact that we need to be careful that we design our training around in person and then try to make it fit for remote. Uh, there, I love this quote. It was actually in Gardner, their top technology list. And for the last couple of years, they've really been talking about this importance that we have to think remote and digital first. And so when we're designing our trainings, what if we design them so that they work effectively for our remote people, and then how we incorporate it for people that are in person too? So it really shifts the paradigm of where we've put the emphasis more on the 3D, and we start putting the emphasis on remote so that it's a good quality learning that way, and we can have in-person options as well.
Yeah, and I like that too, Samantha, because we believe you can do anything remotely. You can do anything with all these new technology tools that we all have at our fingertips. And maybe some people don't like it as much or they miss the in person, but we're convinced it can work. And we make it work in our business, and we work with clients who are making that work. And so I like the idea of designing around remote. And then I also like to think about having a mix of types of events. So we're going to have some remote events where everybody's going to be on their own individual screens, like Samantha and I are today. We're going to have some events where we would like people to come in person. And we pay for people to fly in from wherever they are. We make those invitations, we make it easy for them so that they can come and join us. And then we might have some blended events too. I think those are the hardest to create just because you have the needs of the remote person, you have the needs of the in person person. And so it's a little bit challenging sometimes to meet the needs of everybody, but some mix of the different types of events.
Absolutely. Because I think that when we start getting it really thoughtful about that, that's where our meetings improve. Because even just having a team meeting, which learning happens there as well, you're going to have some people remote and you're going to have some people in person. And so it starts to develop some good habits, as well as making sure that the way we configure the audio and the visual is conducive to everybody staying engaged. And so when we start practicing that more, then doing it even in the ordinary everyday items, meetings and everything start being more engaging. And then we don't have to worry as much about, the people that are remote, are they getting as much out of the meetings, or are we hearing from them, because we just start designing it better so that everybody can more participate. And
Yeah, you're
go
talking
ahead.
about inclusivity, Samantha,
Hmm.
making sure everyone, no matter where they are or how they're connecting, has the opportunity to participate. And that does take some investments in technology. I don't think it's that expensive, those
Hmm.
investments. We're talking about microphones in the conference rooms and maybe some screens so that people in the conference room can see the people at home. And those
Yes.
need to be fairly large. It couldn't probably be like a small computer screen because then if you have these individual Zoom windows, you're not going to be able to see all the
Right.
faces.
Right.
So, some larger screens around the room, the microphones that we talked about, and then because we want to pick up that audio around the conference room and be able to transmit that back so that that person at home can hear. Otherwise, they're straining. The person who's close to the conference room phone, we can hear them the best, and someone in the back of the conference room, we can't hear what they're saying. That can be frustrating
Oh,
for that person at
100%.
home. And then video cameras to
Hmm.
pick up those people. And I love the Meeting Owl. And there are probably competitor products that are out there now, but the Meeting Owl sits in the middle of the table and is always giving us a 360 view of the room. And then whoever's talking, the Meeting Owl also projects a larger image of that person. So those people at home can see also the person there in the conference room. And a lot
Right.
of people are reading lips. I'm single-sided deaf, Samantha, and so I can't always hear that well. And so I need to be able to see people's lips moving. And so if we want those people at home to be able to see the people in the conference rooms and vice versa, and be able to hear them clearly. And that's going to be really essential for blended learning, but also where you were going is meetings. And
Hmm.
how about that, that every single meeting has some sort of dial-in option. So if
Hmm.
I'm at a client and I can't be there, I can still dial in and participate for
Exactly.
30 minutes for the meeting. Or if I'm on vacation, but I want to take a break and from my vacation and dial in and participate in the meeting, that's possible. We want to have work-life balance, of course, but I mean, I might
I
want
just laughed that
to.
a break from your vacation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might really wanna hear the findings
Right.
of that meeting and wanna be there.
Yes.
And so it allows people always to participate in a meaningful way when we have that type of technology, and when we just say to ourselves, "We're not gonna force people to always be here in the office if they wanna participate in the meeting."
Right.
So that those 2 things kind of go together. You upgrade your conference room tech, and you get the bonus of being able to offer these more inclusive meeting opportunities. And those are learning opportunities too, Samantha.
That's what I was just gonna say.
So,
Yeah,
like yeah,
it's we think about meetings, or I'm sorry, we think about learning as structured and classroom style, but really the data shows that what 70% of our learning is experiential. So being given the opportunity to be the fly on the wall on that client meeting, right? Where maybe I am a more junior member, or maybe there's a service that I'm thinking that I want to learn and get certified in, like estates and trust, right? That's an area that's growing in a lot of firms, or in the need, but maybe not enough people that are really skilled in that. So maybe I want to start listening in on some of those meetings and see what's the cadence of what does that look like to be involved in that service area, and decide, do I want to do that? Do I want to go make that investment? I know a practitioner that unfortunately they did make that investment, and then when they were doing the work they found, man, I just don't enjoy this. Like there's other stuff that they can do, and business valuations and all of that, they're also high demand. And so they were really stuck because they were saying, "Hey, I made this investment in getting certified and really being able to do this, but I don't enjoy it." So it's a great way to just give people an opportunity to even listen in, eavesdrop, if you will, and what they can learn from that. And those dial-ins are so much more economical than, hey, I'm going to take you for a couple of hours and we're going to go have that client meeting on site, or if we have to fly there, the dial in just really allows you to take those kinds of opportunities where you sit there and say, "Oh, I'd really love to have one of our junior people here with me, but we can't make that cost effective." And so keeping that in mind, that we can't lose sight that much of the learning is experiential. So when you're thinking about how we do this distance, we have to really think about how we're including that experiential part. And one of them that I hear an awful lot is people missing that eavesdropping over the cube wall. Just what they hear, or being able to throw the question over the cue ball. Hey, I'm in the middle of working on this. What are we supposed to do with this again? In ways that you can do that is you can create virtual cue balls. You can have times where when people are heads down working on projects, that you have teams meetings open that people can just log into, and they're just sitting at their desk working, and there might not be any active conversation going on, or maybe there is, but it in essence creates that virtual kind of cube environment, where that ad hoc conversation or question asking can happen. So it's something else to think about, where again, breaking the paradigm of we think in person first, let's think virtual first, and start seeing where those shifts happen.
Yeah, I like that, Samantha. You're also making me think about, one of our rants about learning, and that is this, that it's not very intentional. That we did have this kind of environment of, oh, our people, well, they'll just absorb it, hanging out in the cubes. And
Yes.
there is a little bit of learning that happens there for sure. And there is an opportunity to reach out and ask people. But what we'd love to see firms do is get more intentional about what are those experiences you want that staff person or senior or manager to have. What are the skills that you want them to develop? And that
Mhm.
does become pretty one size fits one. I was thinking about this, that you could start with a template for that person's role. Let's say it's a senior, but then you really want to look at, for this person, what do I want to get them over the next 3 months or 6 months? What do I want them to be able to do? What kind of work do I want them to be able to process? Or responsibilities do I want them to be able to manage? And then map that out with them and say, now what do we need to do to get you ready? So being more intentional about that, giving them a checklist, having them really work the checklist, set up a meeting, their checklist could say, set up a meeting with Samantha to learn how to set up a project plan for a new retreat,
Mhm.
set up a meeting with Emily to learn about the back end of Teams and how we set that up. And so they are driving their learning, and it's clear what they're supposed to be, what skills they're supposed to be acquiring. Otherwise,
Definitely.
it's like bumping into each other by accident, and I don't know that our people are gonna make the progress we want them to make in that kind of unintentional environment.
Well, and you get to an opportunity and you can't give it to them because they haven't developed the skills yet. And so this way, we are making sure that they are ready, for those opportunities. And I think, in that same vein, being intentional with the trainings that you're doing as well, in giving them some work to read ahead of time. And sometimes that feels like, oh, I can't ask them to do that additional time or whatnot, but when we think about the diversity of the participants, some people really need that time to be able to get their mind around what it is that you're wanting to talk about, so that they can fully engage with you. Because especially when you think of introverts, especially, they're ones that they like to take information in, kind of pull their thoughts together, even if it's asking a question. They want to make sure that their question sounds well formulated, as opposed to, did I just sound stupid saying that? Or should I have known that answer? Right. And so when we give them the opportunity to even think before they come into the learning, then you're giving yourself the opportunity to have more participation, which as an instructor certainly helps you an awful lot, and you get a lot more of a sense of how much they're grasping and what they're not. And then just making sure that the environment is a comfortable space to be able to ask questions that, hey, if it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it, but we need to know if it doesn't make sense. So for your different personality types, not everybody's comfortable in asking those questions on the fly, and some people really do like to process before they ask their questions. So maybe if it is an intense technical training that you schedule 2 days later or the next day, we do a lunch and learn where people then can ask their questions because they had the time to digest it and now they can ask those questions. And that's actually really nice option to have, because when we're all meeting in person, we're oftentimes trying to get it done in a few hours or maybe a day so that everybody can return back to their offices, right? So it gives you a nice blended option to then make sure people that have follow-up questions do in fact ask them, and that the it is a true knowledge transfer, not just a sharing of information.
Oh, I love that, Samantha. And I don't think it's realistic when we have these 2, 3, 4 day training events, even our 2 day transformational leadership program, as much information as we throw to those people, how much can they really absorb in one
Right.
sitting? And so that opportunity to circle back and talk about it again. And we do that through the coaching and the TLP.
Right.
For our leadership program for seniors and supervisors, they don't have that coaching opportunity. So
Mhm.
they do that 2 hour roundtable, and then we ask them to do a little homework, which that helps. And then we're actually encouraging our firms to, if they have multiple participants, to bring them together to talk to each other a few weeks later. So, come together, talk about your homework, process your questions, ideally have a manager there with them or a partner who can help them like feed the information back into their environment and make it apply and make it make sense. So looking for those ways to keep that learning rolling and growing, I just think that's so smart, which we're doing with the homework. But firms can amplify that internally, especially if they have a few people going through programs together at the same time.
Yes. And if you're doing a big training, if you're or big meeting where it's maybe the whole company meeting, or it's covering multiple service lines, empower the either a lead on a smaller team within a service line, or like you said, the manager, the partner of a particular group within each of the different service lines, so that then they start to apply it specifically to their area, because it is really hard as an instructor to try and incorporate all the examples so that everybody can see how the information's applying to them. And so making sure that there's a follow up soon after that, because adults do learn by assimilation. Kids learn more by memorization, but adults learn by assimilation. So they might not be connecting those dots. And so making sure that you connect a team conversation that helps them to see why they had to hear that information and how it does in fact apply, because it really does change how much is stays comprehended out of what you did.
Yeah, sure. Well, you're also making me think about learning styles, and you talked about personality styles,
Hmm.
but people also have different learning styles. Some
Yes.
people want to take in that information through their eyes, they want to read it on a page, which is me. Actually, I print things a lot because it really means something different to me when I am looking at the words on a page.
Hmm.
Other people want to hear the information. Other people need to kind of act it out or practice it, touch it almost.
Hmm.
So, as individual leaders or learning managers, it would benefit us to understand people's different learning styles and see if we could adapt the learning for that, or at least create other experiences that can help people get what they need. Like you were talking about the pre work for our readers, so that they have that time to actually touch the words with their eyes before we're going to talk about them in the session.
No, you're right. Yeah, my personal style, I will print it as well, but that's because I write. I'm a
Mm,
big writer, write in the
tactile.
margins. I
Mhm.
Yes, and that's how I remember,
Yeah.
because there's something about that writing motion and seeing it on the page, that photographic because then I have the visual of my thoughts that were connecting the information and how it applied. So all
Very
styles
interesting.
are different, and we want to accommodate to that and not try to make everybody go through hours. And then I was just going to say, when you were talking about you have to be able to see the lips, make sure you're looking at the different technologies in that sense too, because there are some of these broadcasting platforms that will do closed captioning. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it certainly is going to give some people real advantage. And then I was sharing with a group that they were going to be doing some trainings for their administrative team and getting their team geared, the admin team geared up with some new procedures and so forth before the busy season. And so I said, record it because you're trying to do that training now. And, the next busy season starting January, February, perhaps they might forget some of those things. But what you can also do is like if you use Zoom, turn on the transcript mode, and when they go in, they can do a keyword search on there and jump ahead to the training of where you started talking about a certain process or a certain function. And it really just helps to save time. So it saves you time, it saves your team time if they have to go back and review. Or if you have some people that could use some assistance on just the audio quality, there's so many advancements in the technology. And it's, I mean, doing distance learning's been going on for years. It was fun. I was in a conversation with Emily last week talking about different days, and we have World Distance Learning Day on August 31st of this month. So, there's this has been going on for many years, and there's a lot of advancements, and that might just be an action to take is, are we leveraging the technology to support us as best as we can?
Yeah, and I think that's a great place for us to close out, Samantha, is that you have to innovate. So
Mhm.
you can't just expect that we're going to take those old trainings where we put people in a room and we had them sit there for 8 hours a day for 4 days in a week. That's not really going to work in a blended environment when you're hiring people all over the country. I don't think. I don't think you can expect to just replicate that model in this new blended environment. And so you are going to have to be creative and try new things and leverage technology and practice and get feedback from people, which we do in our sessions. We ask for feedback at the end, especially if we're doing something new, and gather feedback and then kind of try again and keep being creative about how you can expand your opportunities for people to learn.
100%. 100%. And on that feedback piece, make sure you do something with the feedback they give you.
Mm.
If there's feedback of areas of improvement, don't just say, "Ah, that's just a couple people, that's not important." You probably didn't get 100% feedback, so there's probably a few more people in there. Just make sure you don't ignore the feedback.
Yeah, try to find a place to put it into action. That's really
Mhm.
smart. Well, Samantha, thank you so much for being here with me today to talk about this important topic. And we could keep going. I have some things we didn't really talk about. So maybe we can find a future session to continue to explore these learning ideas in this blended and remote environment.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Renee. It was great being here today.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day.